Okay, let's talk about hardware versus software. So you probably know that, you're using a computer, maybe you're holding the mouse, you're looking at the screen, and so on. Those are parts of the hardware. And then there's another part of the computer system which we call the software. And those are things like Microsoft Excel, your browser that you're using. You might be using Chrome, you might be using Firefox, you might be using Internet Explorer, as I said, Excel, Microsoft Word, lots of other types of software. So those are that kind of stuff is called the software. So we say at the most basic level, computers can be broken down into two components, the hardware and the software. So the hardware is the physical components of the computer system. So the computer has to process data, has to do things, has to run commands, it has to add things, subtract, multiply, and so on. That's called data processing, and that's done by the CPU, which is the central processing unit. And then, in addition, the computer basically needs to store results and store information. So there has to be some kind of data storage capacity in the computer. And that's done in what's called the memory storage devices. And there are basically two kinds of memory in a computer. There's sort of what we call long-term memory, or it's the hard drive. And that's like, you put a CD, or I'm sorry, a DVD into your computer, or or something like that. That's kind of like the hard drive. It keeps the um, it keeps the information there for a long time. Whereas there's another type of memory called the RAM, and that is much faster. It works much. It can be. You can add information into there much more quickly. But as soon as you unplug the computer, that whatever you stored in the RAM will disappear. So the RAM is this very quick access memory, and uh, the computer uses that as it's performing calculations, so it can store information in there quickly and access it quickly, and so it needs to do that very quickly. But the down problem with that is that it disappears as soon as the computer is turned off. Whereas the hard drive, the information is stored there, uh, basically, hopefully forever. Um, and okay, the next part of the hardware is data communication, and that's just what we say the devices for input and output. So the screen is an output device. The keyboard and the mouse are called input devices, and a printer would also be an output device, and even a speaker, where you hear voice, would also be an output device. Okay, so that's the hardware, and then we have the software, and that's the computer programs that run on a computer. And here it says these establish logical control over the hardware. So not really clear what logical control means, but they kind of control the hardware. And so part of the function of software is to control all the different parts of the computer. For example, things have to be sent to the monitor. It has to take the input from the keyboard and the mouse and handle it and do things like that. That kind of software is called the operating system. And there are different operating systems. And of course, we're all aware of them. For example, there's Windows. There's also Mac. There's another one called Linux. There are different kinds of Linux. So there's one called Ubuntu Linux. And there's another type of operating system called Unix. Some people have iPhones. That's a different operating system. Some people have Android phones. That's another operating system. Those are the operating systems are the very base part of the software that controls all the hardware in the computer. And then we have other types of software. We call it application software. And those are things like Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, I guess the browser is another one, like Chrome would be one, or Firefox, or Internet Explorer, and so on. And then we have user-built applications. In other words, you might write a program and using a programming language, and that's also software.